Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're zeroing in on the latest developments. We're talking day 26 of the U.S. versus Sean Diddy Combs trial.
A really complex case unfolding.
Absolutely. Our mission, like always, is to cut through the noise, give you the key insights so you can really understand what's happening here.
And just before we really get into it, a necessary disclaimer. This federal case, U.S. versus Sean Diddy Combs, is ongoing. Everyone mentioned is presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law.
That's crucial.
And, this case involves highly sensitive information. If you're easily triggered, please consider if you want to continue listening.
Definitely take care. We're committed to looking at the facts impartially, especially with this kind of material. We'll break down the proceedings, the evidence, make it accessible. Let's dive in. Okay, so let's unpack this. Before day 26, we really need to look back quickly at day 25. It set the stage, lots of tension.
Yeah, things were heating up.
Remember the judge, Judge R.N. Subramanian. He really laid into both sides about a leak to the press. Something about a sealed proceeding got out.
Right, and he wasn't messing around.
No. He warned about seizing phones, contempt of court, a very clear message about following orders.
And testimony-wise on day 25.
Special Agent Delisha Pinland was still on the stand.
Yes, Pinland. She was presenting those travel and expense records, wasn't she?
Exactly. The prosecution's angle was that these records showed Mr. Combs using corporate cards to fund what they called free-offs.
And connecting them to specific people.
Yeah, linking the spending to Cassie Ventura, other participants too, across various hotels. The prosecution is clearly trying to show a pattern here.
It's classic RICO strategy, isn't it? Building that picture of alleged control, coordination, not just isolated incidents.
And we also saw Brendan Paul briefly.
Yeah.
He's been described as Mr. Combs' alleged illegal substance courier.
Right, the initial appearance.
He was subpoenaed, showed up, immediately pleaded the fifth. Is right not to incriminate himself. The judge granted him immunity, but he didn't actually testify that day, day 25.
So immunity was on the table, but no testimony yet.
Interesting. And the defense response to Agent Pinland?
Oh, they went hard on cross-examination, really aggressive.
Trying to poke holes.
Yeah, they focused on texts between Cassie and Mr. Combs. Texts that, well, they argued sounded more romantic or clearly consensual.
Presenting the counter-narrative.
Exactly. Arguing Cassie was an active participant, maybe even initiated these freak-offs sometimes. Trying to paint it as consensual, maybe messy, but consensual.
Which really puts the core question to the jury, doesn't it? How do you interpret these relationships? Control or consent?
And they even showed some explicit videos, described as freak-off videos, apparently from a profile linked to Cassie's device under the name Frank Black.
Wow, so day 25 ends with these really starkly different stories. Prosecution talking control, exploitation.
And the defense pushing messy but consensual. It absolutely set the stage for day 26. So day 26 kicks off, and the court issues some very specific orders. Seems like they're pushing towards the end game, how evidence gets to the jury. Right, streamlining things for deliberation. What were the orders?
The government had to prep a laptop. Only admitted electronic evidence on it. No extras, no visual aids they hadn't approved, and they had to share it with the defense by June 23rd.
Okay, tightly controlling the digital evidence.
And for physical stuff, admitted non-contraband evidence could go to the jury room if asked for. But contraband, like illegal substances, had to stay in the courtroom.
Makes sense. Keeping certain items under strict supervision.
Plus, both sides needed clear exhibit lists. And they had to agree on redactions for any trial transcripts the jury might ask for during deliberation, especially for witnesses who were frequently requested.
Yeah, that's all about procedural fairness, ensuring the jury only considers what they're legally allowed to. No confusion, no inadmissible stuff slipping in. Really crucial in a case this complex and sensitive.
Then things shifted to jury instructions. The government responded to what the defense proposed, and there were some key disagreements.
The legal arguments behind the scenes. What were the sticking points?
Well, immunize witnesses, for one. The defense suggested they might lie. The government shot back, saying, well, immunity depends on truthful testimony.
Puts the pressure back on the witness, right? Tell the truth or lose immunity.
Exactly. Then, investigative techniques. Defense questioned why certain methods weren't used. Government basically said, that's irrelevant to the facts presented.
Trying to keep the focus tight.
Voluntary intoxication, too. Defense hinted Mr. Combs might lack intent because of it. Government said, look, there's no proof of that being relevant here, and the language is misleading.
So pushing back hard on the intoxication defense.
Yeah. Volt Cash defense argued having lots of cash isn't illegal itself. Government agreed, but said, hey, context matters. It could suggest criminal activity depending on the circumstances.
Right, the it depends argument.
And a big one, RIC statute's limitation. Defense said the government has to prove Mr. Combs was still in the conspiracy after September 2019.
Okay, a specific time frame.
But the government countered strongly. They argued, once you prove someone was in a conspiracy, the burden shifts. That person has to prove they took clear action to leave it. Just getting quiet isn't enough.
Ooh, that's a powerful legal point. A conspiracy doesn't just fizzle out passively. You have to actively withdraw. That's the government's position. Very clear.
And then, here's where day 26 got really interesting. Brendan Paul took the stand.
The alleged courier. Finally testifying.
Yes, and his testimony gave us this incredible look behind the curtain. He identified Sean Combs in the courtroom, confirmed he worked for him.
And acknowledged his own arrest.
Yes, detailed his arrest at that Florida airport, said he had cocaine, which testimony indicated it was a form of illegal substance, possibly cocaine, in his personal assistant bag, and he stated it belonged to Mr. Combs.
Wow, straight out of the gate. How did he say he got the job?
Through Revoltel Maroon. And he recounted this really stark warning Maroon gave him during hiring. Something like, get in and get out. If I have a girlfriend, break up with her. You'll never see her and never see your family.
Whoa. Talk about setting expectations. Intense.
Right. And Paul confirmed signing an NDA, too.
That immediately tells you something, doesn't it? The demanding, maybe isolating nature of the job. High pressure from the start.
And his duties were extensive, not just, the alleged courier stuff. He packed marijuana joints, but also handled all the personal assistant tasks.
Like what?
Travel logistics, packing bags, fitness plans, meal schedules, even Mr. Combs' music needs. Everything.
So a very close, demanding role. What about pay?
Started at $75,000 a year, quickly bumped up to $100,000, paid bi-weekly by Mr. Combs' enterprise.
Okay, and the hours?
Intense. He described 80 to 100 hours a week, 4 to 6 days a week, always on call, lots of travel. He even claimed he stayed up for 3 straight days, once during an album release.
3 days? How did he manage that?
Said he used prescription Adderall and also cocaine, described as another illegal substance, just to cope, to stay awake and keep up.
That paints a picture of a really high-pressure, maybe even unhealthy environment. What about Combs' management style?
Paul described it as very demanding. He quoted Combs saying things like, I don't take no for an answer, and telling staff to move like SEAL Team 6.
SEAL Team 6? Wow. Like military precision.
Yeah, Paul said his job was basically to keep Mr. Combs happy, anticipate everything.
It sounds like immense pressure on the assistants.
And the reason he was fired, so strange. He said it was because he forgot a Lululemon fanny pack.
A fanny pack? Seriously?
That's what he testified. Said Mr. Combs dismissed him immediately. Told him, I don't want to see your face anymore. Tell KK you were fired. And Paul mentioned there wasn't really an HR department. If you had an issue or got fired, you just go to Mr. Combs.
No buffer, just direct line to the boss for everything, including dismissal over a fanny pack.
Okay, so connecting this back to the main charges, Paul's testimony went deeper into Mr. Combs' alleged illegal substance use and these Wild King nights.
Right, more sensitive parts.
Paul talked about Mr. Combs allegedly using ecstasy, cocaine, other illegal substances. He even mentioned taking a photo once, his own hand holding ecstasy and something called Tussie Pink cocaine, and being told to put it in Mr. Combs' bag.
Documenting it himself. Interesting. And his role in obtaining substances.
He explained he obtained illegal substances, including buying marijuana. He described texts with someone called Baby Girl, using aliases like Puff for Mr. Combs.
Why the aliases?
Paul said it was to hide Mr. Combs' involvement because he was so high profile.
Which suggests, a conscious effort to conceal things. Fits the prosecution's narrative of a deliberate operation.
Then he described the Wild King nights, said they involved Mr. Combs, significant others, illegal substances, and intercourse.
And he named names.
He confirmed Jane's participation and said his own role included cleaning up afterwards, even though KK Christina Coro apparently didn't want him involved in that part.
Cleaning up. Okay. Was there any other evidence of these nights?
Yeah, the jury saw an iPhone note, a scheduled quorum apparently made for Jane's birthday visit. It explicitly mentioned Wild King nights at her hotel, continuing the next day. Paul also noted that after the Cassie lawsuit, Combs supposedly stopped using hotels for these things, moved them to private homes.
So, suggesting a change in practice after legal issues arose. And the logistics. Were these planned?
Oh, yeah. Paul described a shared document for supplies. Said the property manager handled getting Astroglide. Paul took photos to show staff how to lay items out.
Meticulously planned, it sounds like.
Definitely. He got reimbursed for supplies he bought and said he'd give Mr. Combs $5,000 cash, obtained from security, specifically for these nights.
This points towards organization, not just spontaneous parties, but resourced events.
And the cleanup description was pretty graphic. Paul said he wore gloves, rooms were a mess, empty baby oil, liquor bottles, saw white powder he thought was illegal substance residue.
Grim details.
He even sent a photo of one hotel room furniture covered in sheets to the traps manager. Potential damage charges. Suggests things got, well, out of hand.
Yeah, not just messy, potentially destructive.
And finally, Paul went back to his own arrest. March 25, 2024, Miami Opa-locka Airport. He repeated the cocaine was Mr. Combs's for personal use, just accidentally left in his bag.
And reiterated Combs or KK didn't ask him to travel with it.
Correct. And he admitted he initially told the police everything was his. Why? He said loyalty.
That word loyalty could really resonate with the jury, one way or another.
For sure. And those charges against Paul were eventually dropped. Now the defense got their turn with Paul. Cross-examination time.
Right, trying to reshape his testimony. What was their approach?
They brought up he played college basketball,
Mm-hmm.
maybe suggesting he's capable, not easily manipulated.
Character building.
Tried to downplay the illegal substance part. Said he wasn't just a courier, it was a minor aspect of his job.
Minimizing his role in the illegal activity.
Described the hotel nights, using words like personal and relaxation for Mr. Combs and Jane. And Paul stated on cross that he didn't see Jane acting hesitant.
Directly countering the coercion narrative.
Paul also said he wouldn't have worked for a criminal, wouldn't have stayed if he saw non-consensual stuff. Called his own arrest a mistake. Case dismissed.
Positioning himself as someone with standards who saw nothing wrong.
And quite remarkably, Paul claimed illegal substances actually made Sean Combs more focused, extremely creative, and insisted he wasn't indebted to Combs.
So the defense strategy seems clear. Portray Paul's involvement as minimal, the events as consensual relaxation, and Paul himself as someone who saw nothing criminal or forced. Undermine the prosecution's exploitation claims.
But then the prosecution had a chance for redirect.
To clarify things.
Yeah. Paul confirmed he brought illegal substances for Mr. Combs more than 5 times but less than 10. And when asked about his feelings towards Combs now, he just said, complicated.
Complicated. Speaks volumes, doesn't it?
After Paul finished, more exhibits came in. Texts between Combs and KK about an album, Getting Frank. Some audio messages, too.
Okay.
And then Cassie Ventura's messages, read by both sides. Really powerful and conflicting.
This must have been tough for the jury to hear.
Absolutely. Prosecution read texts implying serious abuse. Things like, you bashed my head in, you dragged me down the hall by my hair, Boris had to tackle you, Puff, that's not love, that's possession, I have bleeding cut.
Devastating words.
And texts from Mr. Combs, too, like, I'm not going to let anyone SA on me when all I've done is to try to be nice. You don't treat me like the king, you act like I'm a bee.
Showing his perspective, his framing of events.
But then the defense read other texts from Cassie. Texts they argued showed consent, like, I love our freak-offs when we both want them. And another, you treat me like I'm a loose woman for 10 years. I love our freak-offs when we want it.
Wow. That juxtaposition is incredibly stark. It perfectly highlights the challenge for the jury, doesn't it? These deeply conflicting messages, allegedly from the same person about the same relationship. How do you reconcile that?
It's the core dilemma. Then Joseph Cerciello from Homeland Investigation testified.
What was his focus?
Mostly on Jane. Hotel expenses over $3,500 for just one night, flights, and $6,000 in damage charges linked to her stays, adding financial weight to the testimony about those nights.
Corroborating some of the financial aspects.
But then during a sidebar, this text message from Jane herself apparently surfaced, and it was read out. It was a gut punch.
What did it say?
I'm crying. I'm so triggered by this. But it's too close to some nights I felt forced. Please stop illegal substancing and using women for your fetish nights. It creates demons inside of us and real trauma to women who are only doing it to please you. Let the pain on the other women stop with me. Leave women alone who don't want to do those nights with you. Hire loose women and stop emotionally harming women that love you.
Oh my goodness. That is incredibly powerful. Directly addressing coercion, trauma.
And there was a follow-up text, too. You want to have me SUC some D so you could jet off on an island with Gina or Young and have me do dirty SA in hotel room after hotel room. just raw and devastating.
Hearing that, especially after the defense tried to frame things as consensual,
Yeah.
it offers such a dramatically different perspective, directly alleging harm, coercion, fetishization, a very strong counter-narrative presented right there.
Yeah. And briefly, there were other texts mentioned, too, about cash. Jonathan Perez texting Fayem about holding $10,000, just adding bits to that financial picture. So as day 26 ended, it felt like we could see the finish line approaching.
The final stages of the trial presentation.
Yeah, the schedule they laid out suggests the prosecution wraps up direct examination midday Monday. Defense hopes to finish cross by Monday night.
Pretty quick pace.
Then maybe a Rule 29 motion that's the defense arguing the prosecution didn't prove its case enough for a jury. Defense might rest Tuesday or Wednesday.
And then closing arguments.
Judge sends proposed charges. They have a charge conference Wednesday to finalize jury instructions, and then closing arguments planned for Thursday.
So jury deliberations are really just around the corner. The final arguments, the judge's instructions, it's all coming together very quickly now. This is where everything gets shaped for the jury's decision.
So this deep dive into days 25 and 26, it really lays bare the core conflicts, doesn't it? The witness testimonies, the messages, the financial trails.
Absolutely. It highlights just how critical interpreting evidence is. Discerning truth when you have such complex relationships, conflicting accounts, and these serious legal frameworks involved, it's a huge task for the jury.
And you see the court being so meticulous about what the jury sees and hears, essential in a case like this.
Definitely. The sheer amount of conflicting information forces you, and certainly the jury, to constantly ask how each piece fits, or maybe doesn't fit, the overall story each side is telling.
So thinking about everything we've unpacked, control versus consent, loyalty, the raw testimony, those conflicting messages, how do you think the jury navigates that? How will they weigh those concepts?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
And beyond this courtroom, what might this case mean for how we look at power dynamics in professional settings, personal ones, especially when you add fame and money into the mix? Lots to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.